You're listening to CreepGeeks Podcast. Here we are, and welcome back to the CreepGeeks Podcast. I'm Greg.
I'm Omi.
And this is Season 8, Episode 314.
UFO car, orange soda recall, Seti grant, New York Bigfoot sanctuary, and haunted Titanic exhibit floods.
Yeah. All right, so here we go. Welcome back to the podcast. If you're your very first time listening to the podcast, we're glad you're here. And if you're a return listener, we're always glad to see you.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of stuff we're going to talk about today, and we're going to roll through it. Some news. It's a sort of a hodgepodge of different things
Okay.
that are all related from our last podcast episodes. And as far as podcast goes, you can interact with the podcast any way you want, preferably on social media. Don't need you showing up to the house. Because we broadcast paranormal news and strange stories and experiences from our underground bunker in the mountains of western North Carolina. I was going to say mountains.
Mountains.
Yeah.
Weird
Facebook
mountains.
is great. Just look for Creep Geeks, YouTube, Creep Geeks. Basically, anywhere you look for Creep Geeks, it's us.
Yeah.
If you can't find us, then you've spelled it wrong, and you probably have Crep Geeks, because we used to get that all the time from this flat French pancake eating people. So... yeah. So in our last podcast, or two podcasts, we've mentioned the fact that SpaceX has been bombarding North Carolina with pieces of space junk from the trunk from the Falcon X Dragon module thing.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just the Dragon X module. The trunk is that piece on the bottom that when you see the little capsule coming through the atmosphere, it kind of burns up, and then they eject it. And I guess they don't care where it goes. Anyway, they just like kick this thing off, and then it comes back safely back to Earth. And we're like, wow, you guys look great in your spiffy Tesla spacesuits.
Yeah.
And they tried to blast a campground, which we can't afford. It's a glamp ground. It's like crazy
Glamping
expensive. Yeah, they have like
experience.
yurts and geodesic domes you can stay in and stuff like that. And then another piece landed on somebody else's property.
Yeah.
And they were going to keep a piece of it and maybe do tours or something like that because, this is all in western North Carolina. Fun fact, did you know that western North Carolina and North Carolina in general is actually known for making world-class knives?
No, I did not.
Yeah, well, according to YouTube, North Carolina is known for, like, having, indie knife makers.
Okay.
Right there was, like, doing all blacksmith style and making all this stuff, so I thought that was kind of neat, right? I don't know how true that is, but it sounded pretty cool.
Yeah.
So... what the deal is, so far it looks like it has been confirmed. The piece of trash in both different spots have been coming from the sky, right? The re-entry burned piece of trash has been confirmed by NASA that it is SpaceX debris.
Okay. So mystery solved.
Yeah, pretty much.
Even though it's not really that much.
Well,
of a mystery.
they officially confirmed that the mysterious object found in a remote North Carolina trail is SpaceX debris.
Yeah.
Originating from one of the American space company's Dragon capsules. So it's confirmed that the reentry of the Dragon spacecraft trunk hardware has been pretty much what this,
Yeah.
what it is. It's a chunk of it. NASA is unaware of any structural damage or injuries resulting from these findings. Yet. It's happened twice.
Yeah.
I mean,
At
it's
least
like,
twice. So.
yeah, but I mean, that's what I'm talking about. It's like one piece of junk was found, and then another piece was junk was found. And it's like, and they're close to each other. So if this is a normal thing, if they're just like ejecting this thing in a certain, time or whatever, when they're burning back up through their atmosphere, that's kind of, because we laugh about it, but we're within 50 miles of where this stuff came down. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's sort of tied into our last two podcast episodes. Space trash in North Carolina. We also should talk about something that's happened here recently, and this is just basically another crash of sorts. Unfortunately, it's a small plane crashed in Dysertsville.
Yeah. So Desertsville is very close to our general area that we live in. And we got the alert, well, I got the alert while I was at work that a small plane had crashed and, emergency services were on the scene. They were trying to figure out what was going on. What stunned everybody at work, where I work, is how close it was to where we live. Because if you go by the bird's eye view, this is less than 10 miles from where we live.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I guess this small plane took off at 8:29 p.m. from Mountain City, Tennessee on Sunday, July 11th, and was last...
7th.
Yeah, July 7th.
Yeah.
And was last seen around Rutherfordton, North Carolina at around 8:57 p.m. So they think the single-engine Cessna 182 crashed in the mountains around 6:45 a.m. Yeah, so they have an NTSB investigator on the scene as well as most of emergency services.
Yeah, so it took off on Tuesday, and then they found it on... it took off
Sunday,
July 7th.
Yeah. And they think it crashed this morning.
At like 6-something.
Yeah. Now,
they found it at 6-something this morning. See, this is what I'm a little unclear of.
No, they found it.
They found it. They said it crashed at 6:45 a.m. on Monday. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't take 8 hours to fly from Tennessee to where they crashed. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
They think it got lost. Like whoever was piloting got lost. Because remember yesterday we had the horrible rainstorm. Then we had different thunderstorms happening in very close proximity but different areas.
Yeah.
If I go... So, yeah, I'm trying to figure out. Yeah, so I got the alert from our local emergency services at 9:42 a.m. They think this crashed at 6:45, and then they made the announcement later on in the afternoon.
There's going to be more come out about this because things don't necessarily make sense. That's what I'm trying to figure out. And part of the reason why I kind of stuck it in here, it's just, it's weird.
Yeah, well...
Tough terrain and fog, but I mean, if you look at if they ever release where they took off and their flight path, it just seems kind of odd that it took that long to travel that relatively short distance. So, yeah. I don't know.
Actually, here, let's see. We have the power of Google. To drive would only be 1 hour and 52 minutes.
Yeah, so flight time.
Yeah.
Should be much, much less. Huh? It's...
Yeah.
I mean, what happened to him in that, let's just say 9 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the morning is 9 hours.
Yeah.
So what happened during that 9 hours flying it? I don't know what the stall speed is of that small Cessna. Maybe Dirk, one of our buddies who, maybe he knows.
So what I do know is they've actually cornered off the area to allow a media stopping point as well as a stopping point for basically crowd control and stuff like that, so nobody goes and sneaks onto the crash site and stuff like that. They've set it very far away. Granted, this is a remote area. There's only a couple of roads that go in and out. So it is interesting. I'm very curious, like you said, what details are going to unfold.
I mean, I wonder if they flew through parts of Linville and all that stuff, because, not everybody knows there's a secret underground military installation in Linville Gorge.
I think it's weird.
A deep underground military base type thing.
This isn't the only single-engine Cessna crash to happen recently in the past few months, so I don't know.
So even if you have two, we're looking at the same thing with SpaceX just basically bombing Western North Carolina, 2 pieces of trash and 2
just
crashes.
Stuff wants to fall from the sky.
Yeah, something's crazy. So speaking of other terrible stuff that's finally been outlawed for the good of all mankind, orange soda is being banned. There's an ingredient in it. Banned around the world.
And we should clarify, it's not orange soda, but that's how it's being referred to in the news right now. However, what's happening is an ingredient commonly used in citrus-flavored sodas that keeps the tangy taste mixed throughout the beverage has finally been banned for good across the United States.
What is it, something like polypropylene glycol, like radiator fluid stuff?
You're kind of close. It's BVO, or brominated vegetable oil, which has been used as an emulsifying agent since the 1930s to ensure citrus flavor agents don't float to the top of soda.
So I get this.
So since the 1930s, when citrus sodas became more popular and packaging sodas became more popular, the biggest problem was any soda that had that citrusy taste, all the citrusy taste would end up at the very top or the very bottom, depending on other emulsifiers that were in the soda. Along came BVO, and it allowed that citrusy taste to be throughout the entire beverage.
Gross.
Yeah.
So here's some of the countries it's already been banned in.
Yeah.
India, country of Japan, other nations in the European Union, and it was outlawed in the country of California in October 2022.
Yeah.
Funny thing about California is they're just sticking this product may cause cancer on everything.
True. In
like
fact,
pens, like you buy a pen and it says, hey, in the state of California, if you eat this product, it can cause cancer.
there are certain cans of corn from a very popular grocery store, big box one, and it's even on those cans of corn.
Yep. They're just putting it on everything.
Yeah. So
They're just doing a blanket, just trying to cover all their bases, I guess.
yeah. I don't know. This goes along with, I believe it was like certain artificial reds were banned in the early 90s, but it took all the way until the early 2000s for the United States to ban them as well. It's like, I don't know.
Well, with all chemicals, it's the dose that makes the poison, and basically there's been some question as to the level of toxicity, I can't even say it, toxicity that the BVO has, right, based on the amount that they say is acceptable, and they're looking at that and saying even the smallest doses can actually cause a higher level of toxicity that's generally recognized as being safe.
Yeah.
So they're like, take it out.
And on top of
Or
that, we
ban
have
it.
entire generations that are so used to energy drinks and citrus flavored drinks that, everything in moderation.
I wonder if it's in, and a lot of foreign countries, we shouldn't say foreign countries, a lot of countries outside the U.S. ban Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
So I wonder if it's got some BVOs in it or if it actually has the radiator fluid in it.
Well, you go on YouTube and you find out how to make Mountain Dew glow through like 3 easy ingredients or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's chemicals. So there you go. That's enough of that. So I just decided to break up our news that we talk about in a couple of different segments, like UFO stuff, cryptid stuff, and then paranormal stuff.
okay.
Are we all clear? Mm-hmm. All right. So if you have any questions, hold on to them till the end. But so I started out with UFO stuff.
Okay.
There's a flying saucer car.
Yes.
And I seen a clip on this, I don't know, probably TikTok or YouTube Shorts or something like that. And it made me think of the UFO car thing that we seen like twice traveling. It's basically a PT Cruiser with all these weird lights and portholes and all that crazy stuff on it.
The steampunk car. Yeah.
It looked like a flying saucer to me.
I know.
Especially when you put some X-Files music behind it and put it up as your own clip there.
Yeah.
But this thing really does look like a UFO.
Yeah.
And when I seen the clip, I was thinking to myself, this can't possibly be legal. So, but evidently it's been pulled over a couple different times. And so the latest to pull it over was in, I think, Oklahoma. And so they call it, the article basically says the Roswell-bound flying saucer stopped again.
Okay.
So if you click on it, it actually takes you to a Facebook link.
Yeah.
Excuse me, where it takes you to Facebook. And the Oklahoma Highway Patrol has posted several pictures. And it goes, it's not every day that you pull over a UFO. Trooper Ryan Vandalik, number 722, that's his badge number, y'all, pulled over this vehicle on a Turner Turnpike yesterday for an obstructed tag. Couldn't see his tag, her tag, license plate. Yeah, we've all heard that before, haven't we? Uh-huh. Am I being detained?
Yeah.
Can't see your tag. You have eyes, officer. It's right there. Right? Anyway. These two, they got pulled over in it. It looks, they're just these two chicks.
Just having a good time.
Looks like a basically a mother and daughter type situation. Yeah. They're on their way to the UFO festival. They were on their way to the UFO festival in Roswell, New Mexico.
Oh, they're charming.
And
There's a mom and daughter.
100% that Oklahoma trooper pulled him over because he wanted to see the UFO.
He wanted to take a selfie just like this.
Yeah. And it's a good looking picture. Nice, beautiful day.
Yeah.
And they're wearing the occupants of the flying saucer are wearing little alien sunglasses. So, there's no word as to whether or not they actually made it. But some of the comments in the Facebook post is like, I'm amazed this thing could go on the highway.
Yeah.
I feel like they'll get stopped in every state.
Oh.
You know, how cool is that? These poor ladies have been pulled over so many times already. You know, after all, the law is the law, right?
Yeah.
Created the danger so he could see the vehicle and get a picture. Great job. Glad no one was hurt. The shoulder of the turnpike is dangerous due to people slowing down and rubbernecking, especially at UFO.
You know how many people
Okay, you know what a turnpike is? The turnpike is just like, it's not even, it's in Oklahoma. In that picture, the closest car, aside from a semi-truck on the opposite side of the road, is like a half a mile away.
Yeah.
So I'm sure.
And it's Oklahoma. It's
not like you're getting pulled over on the Texas, Dallas, what is it, 10? Whatever it is in Dallas, you get run over if you're not going any less than 80. So it's a pretty cool thing. If you want to check it out, everything we talk about in the podcast in the show notes, you can certainly click and see it. But I thought it was pretty interesting, and I'm sure if you Google it, man, you'll find the clips of this thing going down the road. It looks crazy.
I mean,
it looks nicely done. It looks like it's cool, man.
I want to find the Facebook page for these people. I bet they're wonderful. They are so adorable.
Yeah. I have trouble believing a thing is street legal.
You know,
I think it doesn't take a whole lot to be street legal, really. I think you just have to have headlights, all your indicator lights, horn or whatever. I don't know. It depends on where it's registered.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's registered in a state or a place that doesn't have to have vehicle inspection, you probably get away with a whole lot. So I think you take it to a state trooper and have them certify it or something. I don't know. I'm sure if you look into it. But I thought that was pretty neat.
I think it's super cute. So
yeah,
there's like 26 comments. I hope they have AC. That thing looks hot.
Yeah, it's like it has a saucer bubble on top. It does look hot. They probably do. But I've been trying to figure out. I was actually, because it looks pretty small, so I was trying to figure out what car they made this from, and it's probably a Volkswagen.
Yeah.
Or something, because there's not a whole lot of room for an engine, and the back looks like, you know.
When they got pulled over in Missouri, the dude. Oh, I could have some comments about this. The guy claimed that the plate was expired and that they were observed failing to stay within their lane on the highway. I'm sorry, how can you have a visibly expired plate in one state and then the next state over you have a plate that's not visible?
Because police, oftentimes, when they want to see what's going on, will pull you over and then try to find a reason when they get out of the car.
Yeah.
And you know, you think they would have a reason to pull you over, but a lot of times they do not. And we all know this. And if you talk to a policeman and he says, no, that's not how we do it, he's not telling the truth. Because that's why they want you to talk. That's why they ask you questions.
Yeah.
You know, because that's what they're doing. They need to make sure they have enough to justify a police stop. And I'm not saying, you know, that all police are bad or anything like that, but absolutely they do that. Yeah. Anything you say can and will be used against you. It's, you know, part of their deal. They got to make sure they got a case, you know, for pulling you over and making sure what sticks is going to stick. And you can sit there and just say, sure, I'll do whatever you want, sir. Because, you know, or you can basically say, am I being detained? Do you have reasonable articulation of suspicion or whatever? You know, why did you pull me over? I mean, think about this. The last time we got pulled over together, how many police officers eventually showed up? Because I was driving without a license. From 2 different, basically, cities. We had 10. Remember that?
Yeah.
And it was 12:47 at night. Where are you coming from? What are you doing? It's like, that's none of your business, man. And then when they let me go with a warning, I got in the car to start driving off again. They're like, you can't drive. You don't have your driver's license on you. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. It was fun. It was great. Yeah. So speaking of...
that tag is not... I found a picture of the back. That tag is not obscured.
Oh, shocking. I bet it's not expired either.
Well, they don't let you see enough of the tag.
Yeah, so. It's not expired. And they were probably a little wobbly in their lane when the state trooper come rolling up on them at 1,000 miles an hour. Just knew he had some, you know, ignorant people.
Oh, yeah.
Driving some illegal thing on the road.
I'm looking at the Missouri Post, and I'm just like,
Well, Missouri is the show me state. Show me your license. Show me your insurance. What? I hope they're listening too.
The whole state of Missouri is listening to
That's
us.
right.
We can't ever go there ever again.
You know why? I have a valid driver's license and insurance. I'm a taxpayer. I'm a veteran.
And this is how we get banned.
But from the state of Missouri?
Yes.
Joke's on them. Banned Missouri. Got 2 words for you. Next exit. As soon as I see you, that's when I'm taking, officer. Taking the next exit. That's hey. You know how fast you were going?
I was trying to leave Missouri.
Yeah, it's like I'm trying to show you my ass to get out of the state. Yeah. Remember that cop asked me, "Do you have any idea? Did you have any idea when you knew you were speeding?" I was like, "Yeah, when I saw you." And remember that cop? He was so short. And he come cruising up, and I was like, "I missed the speed change, evidently."
You mean the same one that you said, "Didn't you pull me over last week?"
No. That was kind of funny. That's when we were still dating. And you were all terrified, and I'm like, I ain't got time for that. So he had a hard time pulling out my information, so I pulled out the ticket that he wrote last time and just use this one, man. He's like, "What's wrong with you? Just get your vehicle inspected." I was like, "I've been trying, man. Every time I show up, they can't seem to get it done." So it was pretty funny.
Me and the
You got to make him work for it.
Me and the other person in the vehicle are sweating bullets, and you just hand them your ticket from last week.
No, I'm not going to say it was Johnny, but he was laughing. He knew it was going down. Just use this last time, man.
Anyways,
It's all good, man. I mean, you just got to make them work for it. So, all right. So anyway, speaking of UFOs and stuff, 13 secret government UFO programs from around the world.
okay.
Some of these you may or may not have heard of because they're from other countries, but we will list a couple. Excuse me. We will list a couple and then move on. This is the one that I like. It's the first one. The Flying Saucer Working Party.
Why does that sound like a political party that, like...
Well, if you were in the military, like specifically the Navy, working party is everybody gets together and just moves a bunch of stuff. Like, get a working party together to grab and move, 1,000 pounds of canned goods or whatever. Or sodas. Usually it was sodas. Hated those because you had a pallet after pallet of sodas on the ship. But
Well, now it sounds like a new political party that the young folk are going to join, so...
Not when they figure out you got to work. I'm serious. It's not what you think it is. Okay, so the Flying Saucer Working Party, FSWP, was a British Ministry of Defense initiative established in 1950, so it's been around for quite a long time. Real quick, how many years is that? 74. So this small committee was tasked with assessing UFO reports and determining if they posed any threat to national security. And they basically concluded its final report that most of the sightings could be explained by conventional aircraft, balloons, astronomical phenomenon, or hoaxes. And then they recommended no further and more investigation. Because it sounds almost like the Project Blue Book.
Yeah.
So.
Project Grudge.
Yeah.
Project Grudge followed Project Sign in 1949 and was known for its skeptical approach to UFO sightings. The project aimed to debunk UFO reports and concluded that most sightings were the result of misidentifications, hoaxes, or psychological factors. That just sounds like it should be named Project Nah.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, or psychological factors.
Yeah.
You didn't see that, Omi. You're crazy.
Yeah.
Guess who's crazy? You think you see a UFO, you're crazy.
Yeah.
It's not the government hiding stuff. They haven't been doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Hence the 13 UFO secret government projects. Majestic 12, or MJ-12, it's an alleged secret committee of scientists, military leaders, and government officials formed in 1947 by executive order from Harry S. Truman.
I read the...
And the community's purpose was to investigate UFO activity following the Roswell incident. And documents related to MJ-12 have been widely debated and often considered as hoaxes. And we all know that on X-Files, that they were all part of that. But Project Blue Book, study of UFOs, and conducted by the U.S. Air Force from 1952 to 69. It was the third of a series of studies following Projects Sign and Grudge.
Yeah.
The project collected and analyzed over 12,000 UFO reports and ultimately concluded that most sightings were misidentifications of natural phenomena or aircraft, although a small percentage remained unexplained.
I like this one from the Canadian government, the Project Magnet. Project Magnet was a Canadian government project operated in 1950 by Wilbert B. Smith. The project aimed to study the correlation between UFOs and geomagnetic activity. Smith believed that UFOs were likely extraterrestrial and that they utilized magnetism for propulsion. So,
well, magnets are nature's magic.
Yeah.
Excuse me. We have one that's all in French. Blah, 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 blah. Let's find another one.
If you were curious
here we
about
go.
French
Operation
one,
Preto.
it was called Gaipan. So,
You sure it's Guy or is it G?
oh, it could be Gipan.
Gipan. Anyway, Operation Preto was a Brazilian Air Force investigation into a series of UFO sightings in the Amazon region of Brazil, 1977. The operation collected extensive photographic and witness evidence with some reports of aggressive interactions between UFOs and local residents.
Yeah.
And the findings were classified but later partially released.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
Norway had one, Project Hesdalen. I don't know. Ongoing scientific investigation of unexplained lights and phenomenon in the Hesdalen Valley in Norway. Initiated in the early 80s, the project employs various scientific methods to study and understand these phenomenon, which have been reported since the 1940s.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Then you have the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program.
But people have heard of that. ATIP. Yeah.
Which is an effort funded by the U.S. government to study unidentified flying objects. It began so far it's in 2017 and was publicly known in 2007 2007 to 20. What are you doing over there? You're ripping the cables out of the thing.
I'm trying to turn my head so I cannot cough into my microphone.
Okay, well, here, let me tell you a story about mute. Go for it. Ready now. You gonna cough or something? There you go. It's all good. It was really loud. Ready? Here we go. It's one of those things, man. We had a lot of rain. Mm-hmm. It's very nice. A lot of bugs. Anyway, who cares about ATIP?
Pretty much.
It seems like it's, I don't know, man. I'm sure there's much more to it, but I haven't been swayed or compelled with either ATIP or the UAPTF, which is the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force, to find some stuff. And evidently, ATIP, I think, ended in 2017, and then this UAPTF or whatever picked it up in 2020 to figure out what was going on with ATIP, along with the Office of National Intelligence, Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Anyway, according to them, it's all drones. You don't know what kind of drones or military technology it is. So, but anyway, there was a couple. So there's 13 of them, and not every country has them. But Japan, Norway, Brazil, UK, obviously, and I'm sure Australia has one too. So who else would there? I know Russia's got their own thing going on. I'm sure China does. I'm pretty sure every country on the world on the world stage, has some kind of something to investigate unexplained aerial phenomenon. So, what do you think about that?
Okay.
Yeah. So, speaking of that, there is an organization that has been doing government work. Right, been around for a long time, Seti.
Yeah, 1984.
For the search for extraterrestrial intelligence.
Yeah.
Remember back in the day, you could, let Seti borrow some of your computing power to help translate and crunch all the information coming in.
Yep.
To see if you could hear something. It'd make your computer really hot. It just crunched all night long.
Yeah.
So, seems kind of archaic, but now they have this big grant, over $200 million, to be able to do more with it, and hopefully it'll be able to do something better, because now they got this extra $200 million to seek out evidence of alien life.
It's a much needed $200 million. I wouldn't exactly call it extra. The $200 million will allow SETI Institute to consolidate and expand in its search for extraterrestrial intelligence. For a number of decades, SETI has been combing the stars for signs of a technologically advanced civilization lurking in their midst. And while no such signs or results have materialized in their work so far, it's worth considering that we have only been looking at a small speck of the cosmos and for only a fleeting amount of time. I mean, if you think about how large space is and how long time is, it's just, it's a monumental project. So,
they could basically do this for 1 million years and not see everything. But maybe with this philanthropic gift, maybe they'll be able to do more.
The large sum was donated by the estate of the late tech entrepreneur and co-founder of Qualcomm, Franklin Antonio. He spent 12 years working with Seti before he passed away May 13th, 2022. If you guys remember, I think it was March 2020 that Seti stopped doing some of their research. So, I don't know. I think this is cool that...
Well, Franklin was the primary benefactor of SETI research at the Alien Telescope Array. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. Allen Telescope Array. That'd be cooler if it was Alien, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, he was an integral part of the technical team, and his extraordinary knowledge of communications technology was invaluable in helping to upgrade the Allen Telescope Array, and to basically make it a world-class radio telescope instrument that it is today. Fun fact, you put all those discs together and it becomes one instrument.
Yep.
So they have an annual operating budget that usually falls between 25 and 30 million. So this gift is almost 10 times their operating budget. So they could go for 10 more years. They can upgrade some stuff.
A decade goes by quick. So.
Well, yeah. But still, I mean, if you're like, hey.
Alien research in this economy.
Yeah. Are they crazy? How far does your alien dollars go in this inflationary time, right?
Yeah.
But it's going to help all their impact. It's going to impact all their research domains, all the research stuff they do in different departments and stuff that carries out this research. So it'll give the teams the freedom to pursue their own science priorities. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of, hey guys, can you go ahead and submit your research proposal packages for your grants or whatever? A lot of scrambling. Somebody's busting out old spreadsheets and notebooks. We got to turn something in and get some money. So
I do want to point out at the end of this article, like most news articles, they have suggested articles, and one of them is watch SpaceX Starship Super Heavy booster splash down in this epic video. And I'm like, oh, so we get to watch them littering. Yeah. We just talked about them littering.
Oh, no, they pick it. They're good. They recover it.
Okay.
So, I mean, because I thought about that after the SpaceX space junk stuff that's flying, right, and not burning up. They have all those satellites. And this is basically, Starlink. Mm-hmm. But they're all small, so there's a pretty good likelihood that they'll just burn up when they die. They just burn up.
Yeah.
So, but then I was thinking, you know what? There's going to be one of those little spaceships, one of those little satellites. He's going to survive. It's going to be like the flower growing out of the concrete. It's going to be this basketball-sized satellite, internet satellite. It's going to blast through somebody's roof or whatever. I remember when...
And in I
think it was Skylab was coming down, and they were like, if a piece of Skylab hits your house or whatever, you can win a prize or some crap like that. They made it this big thing, and people are all happy about it. Running around with the T-shirts and what looks like gym shorts and the high pull-up socks with the rings on them and stuff in like the 70s, 80s. Hit my house. And it's like, do you really want to get blasted with a piece of space debris? Flying like, 14,000 miles an hour? It's probably not as fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. So anyway, this is something that I think a lot of communities should probably do.
I can go on a rant about this.
Well, please don't. Not until I make my point.
Okay.
And for the betterment of a community, you too can cash in on tourism, right? Prospective tourism, and just dollars for giving your town, a reason for people to show up. So if you're a small little rinky-dink town, you can have things like a festival. You can basically donate an area, a safe sanctuary type thing. You can, put out little, no killing Bigfoot permits. You can put out Bigfoot hunting permits. There's all sorts of things you can do to drive interest in your small town or community. at the expense of the cryptid paranormal. Yeah. And there's a town in New York, and they declare the whole thing a Bigfoot sanctuary. It's a historical marker that they put up, and there was one in North Carolina. They put up a historical marker about a haunted bridge. Mm-hmm. We talked about that in the podcast. And they're going to make this New York town a Bigfoot sanctuary. Now, to be fair, it does have a little bit of Bigfoot history. You know what it is, right?
What?
You're supposed to give the answer while I try to find one of my many links to figure out what it's called. It's, I think it's the Beast of Whitehall.
Okay.
Yeah, so here's what the sign says. And this is legends and lore, right? Bigfoot sanctuary. For centuries, local stories tell of sightings of giant hairy beasts that walk upright and leave huge footprints, and local law protects them. New York Folklore, William C. Pomeroy Foundation, 2024.
Okay, so this is a part of the William C. Pomeroy Foundation initiative of Legends and Lore Historic Markers.
Yeah, it is the village of Whitehall.
If you have paranormal or very interesting folklore, unusual folklore in your area, and you know how to fill out a grant, you are eligible for this.
So tell us your rant, because I already know what it is.
If you have the capacity to write a grant request, you can go to the Legends and Lore William C. Pomeroy Foundation website and request one of these markers. You need to understand how to fill out a grant, how to provide anecdotal and research evidence supporting your claim for whatever your Legends and Lore marker is. So, if you have a history of, let's say, Bigfoot in your community, you'll need to either link to or cite sources regarding Bigfoot literature and Bigfoot reports in your area, or even if it comes down to listing Facebook links and website links. As long as you can provide that, you are eligible. I'm not going to say you're going to get approved. These are grant requests for these historic markers. I know that we have that bridge here in North Carolina. There's a couple of these in South Carolina for certain haunted areas with high populations of, like, ghost sightings and stuff. There's these markers in other places as well. There's a whole website where you can actually find where the different markers are. It is a easy process. It just takes a bit of your time. And I think most communities that have a level of weird should be filling out this opportunity.
Yes, because then you can have like a festival where you can do like Bigfoot calls and all sorts of stuff like that, and maybe have some economic prosperity show up to your town.
Yeah.
Or it can be like the
basically you are
Dukes of Hazzard, you know.
You are putting your town or your city or your village on the map for whatever is accounted for in your Legends and Lore marker. So you are putting it on the map in some way historically for whatever you're trying to go for. Whether it's like some sort of Appalachian witch that resides in the Blue Ridge Mountains, or, you know, a crazy haunted courthouse at the where three counties intersect. I'm kind of throwing out some ideas here, you know. You can get this marker.
Nice.
Yeah.
Or that what's the one that it went right out of my head? The cat. Wampus cat.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because, you know,
Now the only problem with Wampus cat is, and this is, I am not a full expert on this, but if the Wampus cat sighting occurs on NFS territory, you might have to get additional clearance for that, as well as...
Well, what is NFS territory?
National Forest.
National Forest Service.
Yeah.
Very nice. Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah.
So anyway, I thought it was pretty cool, right? And I put it in there because it is kind of cool, something you can fill out and do, and you can put some effort into it and make it happen, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's not like they're trying to give you, you know, it's not like you're getting a grant for like $10,000 or whatever. You're trying to get a plaque and the permission to put that plaque. And I know it's expensive, but if somebody's paying $10,000 for that kind of plaque, you probably, you know, should shop around. Just saying. I mean, somebody's like, well, I had to go pick it up. So nobody needs to know it's 7. Who cares? We're going to get one.
I might as well.
You could do that. You can write stuff. Yeah. So speaking of historical markers, we're going to move into this. Some campers called the cops after they seen a 5-foot creature with glowing eyes. This is an unexplained mystery.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, here's where it's kind of like, I thought it was pretty interesting, so we stuck it in here. This is an article from unexplainedmysteries.com, and if I haven't already said so, you can find everything we talk about in our show notes if you go to CreepGeeks.com. Every podcast episode where we include links to things that we discuss are there for you to peruse at your leisure, right? Uh-huh. So, campers call the cops after seeing a 5-foot creature with glowing eyes. And here's where it gets... They're trying real hard not to say a group of teenagers.
Really?
Yeah. So deputies arrived on scene in the Kisatchie National Forest after a group of campers reported a very strange sighting.
Okay.
And here's why I don't like this article as we get into it. It says something strange is lurking in the remote woodlands of Louisiana. That is at least according to a recent report posted on Facebook, right? By the, I can't say it. How do you say it? Nachoches? Nachoches? I'm terrible with this. Parish Sheriff's Office. Yeah.
I don't know.
So on June 28th at about 9:20 p.m., there were some deputies, and they were seen attending the scene. They were there at the scene of a 911 call after a group of high school graduates who claimed, see, here's where it gets funny, right? High school graduates who claimed to have had an encounter with some sort of growling creature that was 5 foot tall and had glowing eyes. All these kids... Yeah. These high school kids, they're from Louisiana.
Yeah.
Right? So let's set that. So deputies, they arrived on the scene and began to walk towards the camp, right, the site, and they were looking for any suspicious activity or glowing eyes. Deputies then heard the group's whistle and located them unharmed. So the people called, right, these campers, these basically high school graduate campers. And so deputies arrived at the campsite and successfully escorted the group out of the forest. So the cops showed up and took them out because evidently they didn't want to leave.
Yeah.
Right. Deputies reported in their deposition as unable to locate any suspicious activity involving a growl with glowing eyes and standing 5 foot tall. So what did the group encounter in the woods that evening? In all likelihood, this is where the article gets, either they encountered a bear or they ingested a bit too much alcohol. Also, it's possible that the entire 911 call was a little more than a hoax. Here's how I'm going to put this in perspective here, first off. And this is why articles like this anger me.
Yeah.
Or aggravate me. If you're a bunch of drunk high schoolers, because it said high school. So unless you didn't graduate high school until you were 21.
Yeah.
Right? So you got a bunch of drunk high schoolers who call the cops.
Yeah.
What would you... Okay, so if you're a drunk high school kid, are you going to call the cops to come save you, or are you going to haul ass and get out of there? Because, number one, you're already drunk. Number two, it's just going to be bad all the way around if the cops start busting people.
Yeah.
Why would you call the fuzz, man?
Either that is an assumption that there was alcohol involved, or...
That's the point I'm making.
Yeah, and no offense to teenage boys across the planet, but
why has it got to be teenage boys? You're already doing something.
High school. You've just graduated high school.
I'm sure there were girls there too.
I know. You're on top of the world. If something scary was out there, but it didn't genuinely scare you, you would show some bravado and probably help the rest of your friends get out of the woods.
This is Louisiana.
Yeah.
And it's in a place I can't pronounce.
So I looked that up.
So here's the deal.
Fun.
These kids hunt. They go to the bayou.
Yeah.
They're doing country stuff.
Yeah.
Somebody has a rifle in one of their cars or even has a handgun with them because they're out in the woods. There's gators.
Yeah. Snakes.
There's all sorts of stuff. Yeah. These kids don't spook easy.
Yeah.
They spook a whole lot harder or less. They'll spook less easy than somebody from let me find a place that's safe. I don't know. Virginia Beach. You're going to take a kid from Virginia Beach and throw them in the woods in Louisiana swamp.
Yeah.
They're going to spook.
Yeah.
Not these kids. They know what a bear looks like. They know what a gator looks like. They know all that stuff.
And even if they had...
And why would they call the cops?
Yeah. Even if they had ingested alcohol, how terrifying was this experience that you weighed, being intoxicated versus having your life saved,
And wherever they are, it's illegal.
Yeah.
Wherever they are and whatever they're doing is illegal.
Yeah.
Come on. These kids seen something. Yeah. And it could have been a hoax. Now, here's the deal. We don't know the whole thing, and I haven't seen anything where you could find out any information from the kids. Yeah. Because if the kids are high school kids, they ain't going to say anything anyway because they're minors.
Yeah.
So they can't see it on the news. So if somebody left the party and called it in, maybe that's one thing.
Yeah.
But I don't think so. So I think that, the whole idea, in all likelihood, either they encountered a bear or they ingested a bit too much alcohol is written from some knucklehead who is not from there, probably can't discern a bear from anything else out in the woods. I mean, come on.
Or just has a dismissive opinion of that particular
they're
community.
just dummy. Yeah, they're just dumb-dumbs. What do you call dumb swamp people?
I'm dealing with that right now.
Yeah, same thing when you have like people say, you live in where? Oh, you're a dumb hillbilly. It's all...
Somebody recently wrote an article about where we live and the people around where we live, and it's obviously someone who lives in a much larger city. And it's just like, they're just...
Yeah, and I think it's funny that the city people and stuff, they really think they know stuff. They're really on top of it. It's like, take you out of the city, right? Let's put you in the woods. You don't know shit.
Yeah.
And people like that, they get on my nerves. Like New York thinks it is absolutely the best city on the planet and nothing else matters. Got news for you. Absolutely untrue. The whole city smells like pee, and you got all sorts of problems.
I tried to Google how to pronounce this city, and I think Google's messing with me. Nakutush.
I don't know. We need swamp people.
Nakutush.
The Lowries. When they hunt
the
alligators.
Lowries from like swamp.
Yeah. So how do you say this, man? They know.
Okay.
But I mean, you got a 9-year-old kicking with a 225 Evinrude on the back of a flat boat, rolling with 18 alligators and gators in that thing flying. Yeah, come on. These kids grew up there.
Yeah.
Even if you look like the bearded, long-haired Duck Dynasty guys, they know what stuff looks like. And guess what? All their kids did too.
Yeah.
I don't know how many bear are there.
It's Louisiana. I mean,
they got bear.
Yeah.
And they got enough to know what a bear looks like.
I don't know. Every time I hear the glowing thing when it comes to some of these animal encounters, the first thing I think of is mountain lion. I don't know why.
I'm thinking of skunk ape. We were down in that area.
Mountain lion kick though. So
yeah, but I mean, you'd be able to tell the difference between a 5 foot tall mountain lion. If you're looking at its eyes and it's 5 foot tall, that is a giant mountain lion.
Unless it's up on its hind legs, just like a bear,
You're just scared of mountain lions. And I get it. I mean, come on. I don't think this is a mountain lion.
Sure.
So I think I think there's more to it. If we knew that parish was close to like skunk ape stuff, or Rougarou. Right? Like Dogman.
Yeah. Huh.
Okay, so it's in central Louisiana, founded in 1805.
There's at least 2 other random posts about Bigfoot in Natchitoches Parish.
I think it is Natchitoches.
Yep, and then 1 swamp ape post. Okay.
Huh.
Yeah.
I know Small Town Monsters has done a couple, like, videos and movies on this type of stuff. I think one of the last one, the Rougarou.
Oh, now if you do Rougarou,
so I got some history to it.
Yeah, you do get a lot. The first results though are Rougarou hog control located there. So them wild hogs, which are a genuine problem.
Yeah, but they would know if it's a wild hog because so if you know all this stuff is going on and you're going to go out in the woods and party, somebody's got a gun.
Yeah.
Not to be out there just shooting off in the woods being irresponsible because they know that things are out there that you need to probably shoot. And you need to shoot a wild hog coming at you.
Yeah.
So, especially if they're all feral. And I'm not talking about Will Ferrell. I'm talking about like feral. All right, so anyway, kind of moving back into it. So we've got a Bigfoot sanctuary. Campers call the cops on themselves because they've seen something, but it's just dismissed. Oh, he probably ingested too much alcohol or you've seen a bear.
Yeah.
Right. So speaking of animals that may or may not be smart, so the Smart Animal Club keeps getting bigger, right?
Pepper is interested in this portion of the podcast.
Yes.
So I'm kind of glad about this. It has made me make certain decisions about what I eat.
I was going to say, it makes it harder on what you're going to eat now. Right?
Yeah.
Because, all right, so we all know octopus are smart.
Yes.
And there's been plenty of shows. I watched this show the other night, like 3 or 4 episodes. No, I'm sorry. It was 2 episodes. They were really long about how smart octopus are, right? And I mean, it makes sense to me that they'd probably be from another planet or whatever.
I genuinely feel guilty.
You know what? Maybe these octopus are the original drones that were sent here to see what's up with the planet. Because if you think about it, if you're looking at Earth from, the other side of the galaxy or whatever, it's a water planet, right? It's blue. It's full of water. Would you just send some landwalkers? If 70% of your environment is water, are you going to send somebody that walks on land, or are you going to send somebody who's going to, you know what I'm saying? You're going to, So, okay. So scientists and enthusiastic dog owners alike have long quibbled over what attributes or tendencies make one animal smarter or more intelligent than the other. So animal researchers have applied various intelligence tests to a wider net of living things in recent years, and dividing the lines have only gotten murkier.
Oh.
So here's some things that we know are smart. Elephants.
Yeah.
We know they're smart. They have memories, they go back, they grieve, all of that sort of thing. So we know elephants are smart. We know octopus are smart. We know primates are smart, right? Dog owners are often, is nearly enthusiastic about praising their animal's intelligence as a new parent would be. And on a species level, science suggests that they have good reasons for their excitement, right? So it's kind of hard to get a precise level of measurable intelligence because it varies by dog breed and individual. But researchers estimate that some of the canines are basically more capable of learning a sort of meaning over 100 words. In other words, they can learn, like you can teach them words and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And they also implicitly understand humans' emotions. And they can also exhibit signs of jealousy. We see that. Like our dog doesn't like dog biscuits, but if you got 3 dogs around, she'll love that dog biscuit you give her.
Yeah.
She'll take it in the house and drop it on the floor and not care at all. But look what I got.
She'll carry it around to show off to the other dogs.
Or like that picture or meme on the internet where, actually, it wasn't a meme, it was a little video clip where the dog is poking his head out of the truck.
Yeah.
And he hops back in, right, jumps out and has a big pink stuffed animal.
Yeah.
And he says, this dog is showing my dog its stuffed animal. Look what I got, right?
Yeah.
So dogs are smart to a certain degree. Pigs. They're allegedly as smart as a dog. Dolphins, we know dolphins are smart and slightly dirty. Parrots are smart. We know crows are smart. We already talked about octopus. Bumblebees.
Yeah.
So bumblebees, along with ants, have often confounded critics who attempt to keep the insects out of conversation due to, when it comes to animal intelligence. But in 2016, researchers from the Queen Mary University basically taught bumblebees to pull a string in order to receive a reward.
Huh.
I mean, you can teach a chicken,
and
a duck, and all that sort of thing. But this is an insect. We kind of look at insect as being like, not as smart as like mammals, right? Mm-hmm. But if a bee knows that he pulls a string or whatever and gets a reward, and it says more impressively, other bees learn to perform the same task simply by watching their comrades. So one bee's like, hey man, look at this one, look at that one, look at this one, right? And he pulls a string and starts teaching it to the other bees.
I mean, that's...
Bees have jobs to do. They're not going to do things that they don't have to, right? So they know that if I pull a string, I get a reward. It's worth doing. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm still stuck on...
Bees also have an impressively nuanced grasp of counting and can even reportedly understand the concept of 0 or none.
Yeah.
Something that's typically only, sort of like humans, parrots, and apes know the difference between some and none.
Huh.
So that's an insect, right? Bumblebee. Yeah. Crayfish. They're just basically water bugs, just like
shrimps
lobsters
is bugs.
Shrimps, right?
Shrimps is bugs.
So basically, and these, since they're such close, like cousins of lobsters or whatever, they may exhibit signs of anxiety treatable through Valium-like drugs.
Oh, wow.
So even though these ancient creatures have existed hundreds of millions of years, scientists haven't typically considered them to possess enough intelligence to be considered sentient. So researchers from the University of Bordeaux basically called that assumption into question. They did a 2014 study. They exposed a test group to an electrical field, which is intended to induce potentially anxious experience to these things.
Yeah.
They'd zap them. The crayfish were placed into separate tanks. They had darker and lighter areas, right? So crayfish typically prefer darker areas, but shocked subjects would avoid the lighter areas outright.
Yeah.
Like if you go there, you're going to get shocked. So I ain't going, right? But when they examined the crayfish further, they basically saw that they are producing high levels of serotonin, which occurs in other species when they're trying to counteract anxiety.
Yeah.
So more telling, the researchers injected those crayfish with an anti-anxiety medicine and found they eventually overcame their inability to explore the lighter side of the tank.
Huh.
I don't know.
I don't know, because both examples, both the bumblebees and the crayfish, and I'm talking out of my uneducated butt here, those seem like trained concepts. I mean, pull a string, get a reward. That reward does help their goal for the bumblebee. Get fed, get, the crayfish, light area, get shocked, dark area, avoid shock or avoid, predators, what have you. But the fact that you can medicate them.
And then they eventually overcome that anxiety.
Yeah, that kind of
maybe it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what they do in humans.
Yeah.
Oh, you scared to go outside? You're afraid to talk to people? Let's try some of this. Oh, it's
They'll
not
do
that
it for
bad.
pepper, too, and
Yeah,
fireworks.
well, that seems to be a common thing because, like, back in the olden days, back in my time in the 70s, you didn't give dogs drugs unless they needed the drugs for, fixing something like, medicine or whatever.
It's the future.
You didn't give them drugs. It's just like, well, because the dogs would run off. They'd run off and hide, right? Fireworks and stuff, and then they eventually come back. And that's just how you did it. A lot of people didn't even feed their dogs. It's like your dog, you know how to eat, go eat.
It is the future. Dogs have real world problems these days.
Well, maybe we just over-medicate just in general now.
Well, that's true.
Because, it's like when you learn how to swim. You had a couple different ways to do it, right? You got exposed to it enough to where you became comfortable in the environment, you overcome a lot of your fear, and you learned how to swim. And then the other way was what? Let me throw you in that river. Here you go. Sink or swim.
Y'all are lucky it was a river.
Or a pool.
The Pacific Ocean.
Okay, guess what? Well, we all grew up at the beach, right? And you went in the water.
Pacific.
Okay, well, the Atlantic, whatever, man. The Pacific is scary, but the Atlantic is worse. You can't see the bottom. You don't know what you're stepping on.
There's no land other than the one land they dropped you off from.
All the oceans touch land.
Eventually.
Except for maybe the Ionic Sea. No, yeah, you get no pity from me. You learn how to swim. Now, there's benefits to each, right? I think this slow progression, learning how to make you more comfortable, takes forever when really it's much ado about nothing. You get thrown in the pool, you learn how to swim.
That's how trauma starts.
No, but think about it. Once you know you're not going to die, because you can basically seize your own destiny, it becomes a lot easier to learn how to swim and a whole lot faster. You can spend your entire summer at the enlisted pool, right, on the amphibious base in Norfolk, right, trying to figure out how to learn how to swim. Or you get thrown in and you eventually learn like 2 seconds. The next day you're out there swimming around. What's it going to be?
Me and my
Generation X, man.
Me and my best friend had this conversation this afternoon.
Hey, guys, you hungry? Go cook something.
About
You've seen me do it 100 times. Time to learn. Go do it.
About learning experiences that parents felt they put you through versus flat out trauma. Okay.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things that have been diagnosed that used to have common names that we use, like you were shy. And how did you get over being shy?
I didn't. I got the internet.
Well, whose fault is that? How do you get over being shy?
That is a coping mechanism.
You got kids that can't even eat a peanut. You know how many kids were allergic to peanuts back in my day? Very few. It's the dose that makes the poison. They do say that a lot of allergies and stuff that kids have are because that when their mothers were pregnant, they didn't do enough to introduce that sort of thing.
No.
Yeah, they do. I read a thing on it.
And it could also be overexposure. Okay.
Allergies. Hey. Don't get all mad at me. Don't get mad at me. I'm just saying what it is. It could be underexposure. It could be no exposure. It could be overexposure, right? Of course. It's always the dose that makes the poison. Look up in the 70s, how many kids were allergic to peanuts? A whole lot less than now. You can't even get them on a flight because somebody, somewhere, may be taken out by a peanut.
Would you hush?
Or a candy bar.
Good.
Candy bar can kill you these
sticky,
days.
Gross airplane peanuts.
I'm glad
they're gone.
They came in a bag, and they were delicious.
Where we take care of our dogs.
It used to be,
and nobody gets peanuts.
And the bags of peanuts were nice too. They were large, right? And you get the the big. And so if somebody was like, "Oh no, thanks, I don't want the peanuts," and you could look at the flight attendant,
Okay,
and
Grandpa,
say, "Can I take
let's
theirs?"
get you in bed now.
So-
And peanuts were huge.
Look, you're just mad because you don't know how to swim.
I
So-
do know how to swim.
You're scared of the Pacific Ocean. Ooh, so scary.
Everybody should be scared.
So here's something that I thought was really interesting. The cleaner wrasse, which is a type of fish, right?
Yeah.
These cleaner fish, the ones that look like suckers. They're sucking on the side of the fish tank or whatever. Okay, so they average about 4 inches in length, and they're found almost everywhere. Coral reefs, places like that. And these things you wouldn't think would be smart, or at least be a contender for animal intelligence, right? So researchers have shown that they seem to be able to complete the mirror mark test,
Yeah.
which is a widely used test, like an experiment to determine if an animal can recognize itself.
Yeah.
So if it recognizes itself, then that's a mark of intelligence, although even dogs typically will fail this test. So it doesn't say a whole lot. So it's not a foolproof test. So a group of researchers writing in the PLOS biology, I don't know what that is, PLOS biology, they placed 10 of those fish in a tank with a mirror, right? And it says, though most of the fish immediately thought that the reflection was another animal, several of them began spending more time with their own reflection.
Yeah.
And they even began swimming upside down and performing other behaviors considered unusual for the species. When researchers marked the fish with a brown dot, some of them appeared to recognize it in the mirror and even tried to scrub it off.
They were like, you son of a gun.
They're like, whoa, what is that? They're trying to scrub it off their own heads. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
So,
But the mirror test, that's another one of those octopus things. And why back, I guess, in 2021, scientists in the UK wanted to label octopi and squid sentient beings
sentience.
because they passed the mirror test and they've passed a lot of the other intelligence tests.
Yeah.
And it was in 2021 when we did this article in an older podcast episode where I was like, I got to stop eating cuttlefish and octopi. They're too smart.
Well, that's the problem. Everything has some level of intelligence. Like I said, we're going to find out that everything's smart and everything thinks. And what are we going to eat then? Genetically modified anything?
No.
It's going to be tough. Like, sorry, little guy. You're delicious. Okay, so let's talk about two more things before you get ready to wrap up the podcast. So there's been some paranormal stuff that's been related to Titanic objects.
Yeah. We've
Objects from the Titanic.
The podcast actually had this sent to us twice last week. So, yeah.
Who did that?
Thank you, Shayna. And then thank you, was it Marley? Marley may have sent it to us.
I have no idea. This is the first time I've been made aware of this.
Yeah.
So I thought this was kind of interesting because the exhibit, right? Titanic exhibit mysteriously floods in an allegedly haunted museum. What does that mean?
Some of these same artifacts were also in the exhibit that was in Tennessee. Was it Gatlinburg or Pigeon Forge that it was at? I think it was Gatlinburg.
I get them confused. They're the same to me.
Yeah. And I believe some weird.
I think it is Gatlinburg.
Yeah.
I think we went by it a couple different times.
We did. And I know a couple of different paranormal groups actually led the tours for those. I think there was a situation.
We used to talk to that guy. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is at the Volo Museum,
Yeah.
which already has a reputation for being haunted, right? Mm-hmm. And it made local news headlines when they say CCTV, right? Come on.
Yeah.
When some security footage was released showing a significant amount of water suddenly flood its Titanic exhibit, they didn't even know no one else was around. No burst pipes, no roof leaks, or anything else that account for it. And it says, I'm not a huge ghost guy, but when all this happens, I mean, look, but there's no cracks, there's no holes. So the museum director, Jim, weird last name, basically told the news people, he's like, there's no broken pipes. The ceiling is fine. Everything around the building is totally fine.
Yeah.
And the museum is certainly no stranger to its own unusual occurrences. And it's been basically had numerous accounts of paranormal phenomena, from everything from sightings of shadowy figures and just other weirdness. So could this water be paranormal in nature, or is there more of a conventional explanation? So, and then there's a link that you can click on to take you to YouTube to watch the video. Figure out where this water comes from.
Yeah.
You're like, what caused mysterious flooding in the Titanic exhibit? So if they didn't have the exhibit,
Would it have happened?
yeah.
No.
And it kind of, Titanic is kind of known for sinking.
Yeah.
A little water action going on.
And
sadly.
I was trying to do a quick search because I remember when certain pieces from this exhibit were also in Gatlinburg. And there was an uptick in alleged paranormal activity
Yes.
when certain pieces have been at certain museums, because these pieces have been donated from private collections and other museums. I believe there was a museum in New York or someplace in the Northeast, and it also had strange activity. So now I want to know which pieces have been in all three museums.
Yeah, I had a link
Yeah.
that I can't seem to find anymore that may have said what those pieces were.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, they were referenced as in...
And then, I do know it was back in 2021, the iceberg wall that was at the Titanic Museum in Pigeon Forge fell. It, collapsed and fell and injured 3 people. And at that point, part of that exhibit was, kind of put on hold-ish.
Yeah.
Well, Pigeon Forge Titanic Museum attraction buys the panel at the center of the Titanic controversy. So that's new.
What does that mean?
Not really sure. So,
I mean, what did you say? That they bought it?
yeah, I guess Treasures of the Planet Hollywood auction.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it's the piece from the Titanic movie that
Yeah.
Planet Hollywood... Oh, I got you. All right.
But yeah, it seems like there's a lot of objects. I'm not going to say cursed objects, but it seems when some of these objects rotate into different exhibits and different museums,
Then
weird stuff happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mean like when you buy haunted stuff from a thrift store and bring it home?
Exactly.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. It'd be kind of interesting to see if they ever figure out where this water came from. Now, the thing, though, there is some older vehicles in the picture where it says Titanic car.
Yeah.
Like, did this car come from the Titanic? I don't know. But anyway, maybe it came from the car. Maybe it's radiator water. Back in the olden days, they put water in these things. They didn't
the Volo Museum is an auto museum, so maybe that's what it is.
But yeah, okay. So that being said, if it's, I didn't realize it was a car museum.
Yeah.
Is the guy running the museum, is he not a car guy? Because the very first thing we've all seen, well, I don't know if we've all seen this, but I've seen several times when people trying to identify weird puddles underneath their car, stick their fingers in it and they do like a check and they rub their fingers together saying, does this feel like brake fluid, transmission fluid? Is this water?
Okay.
They'll smell it. Is it radiator fluid?
So here's something
Is
interesting.
it condensation sweat from your AC?
I found a completely different, oh gosh, I hate all this spam stuff. I found a completely different article through a different website, and it's a color daytime photo. The area under some of these Titanic exhibit pieces is carpeted, which,
Yes.
yeah,
So something made the carpet wet.
yeah.
I'm assuming underneath that carpet is a cement floor if you've got cars on it. you know.
Yeah.
So where did that come from? Who knows? Maybe they're going to find like an AC drain or something that's just plugged up and it's been sweating all over the floor.
Yeah.
And it's slowly running down the cracks. So speaking of the obvious, right, there's been a survey that reveals 66% of households that report paranormal activity have children.
Let's misconstrue that headline.
Okay. No. So a recent survey that's conducted off Higgy Pop sheds light on the prevalence and nature of paranormal experiences reported by individuals in their homes, given that the survey was hosted by HiggyPop.com, right, which is a place, right?
Yeah.
It naturally attracted a significant number of believers. Nevertheless, findings provide a detailed picture of how common these occurrences are and the various factors associated with them.
Yeah.
So they're saying that this survey has basically about paranormal activity has sort of led to like, hey, homes with children have more paranormal activity. Like, okay. So a significant 96% of the respondents reported experiencing something they believe to be paranormal, either in their current or previous homes, right? Everybody's had a haunted house experience, I guess. Specifically, 24% experienced paranormal activity in their current home, 42% in a previous home, and 30% in both. Only 4% of the participants stated they had never encountered anything weird or paranormal. Right. One of the key findings from the survey is that 66% of the households that experienced paranormal activity had children living in them or with them at the time. So this suggests a strong correlation between the presence of children and the occurrence of paranormal activity. Yeah. Someone asked about the types of paranormal activities they experienced. The majority, 70%, reported a mixture of stuff like apparitions, unexplained noises, moving objects, and the apparitions were experienced by 10% of the respondents. Unexplained noises, 4%. Objects moving by themselves, 3%. And then 13% described other types of activity or weird paranormal experiences, right?
Yeah.
And so the frequency of these paranormal experiences varied amongst all the respondents. 22% reported daily, 33% weekly, 22% had monthly, and then 23% said they rarely experienced. In addition to children, pets were also a common factor in households reporting paranormal activity. And 77% said they had pets in the home. And they also surveyed the age, and so, you know, how old were they? Like, and this is talking about when it comes to the houses where they experienced it. So 21%, no, I'm sorry, 33, I lost my thing. Where'd it go?
You said 33% were living with a partner or spouse. Wait.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the age of the house. Okay, all right, so a third of the respondents, 33%, reported living in historic houses over 100 years old. 33%. And in houses aged 51 to 100 years was 30%.
Yeah.
And then 28% were more modern homes within 11 to 50 years. So we've lived in a house older than 100 years. Yeah. And it was haunted. Yeah. And we moved in our house was like over 50 years old. So it was also kind of haunted. And we basically stayed in another house before that, which was haunted by dude's angry mom. And that was over 50 years old too, because those houses were built in 50s, like after World War II.
Yeah. So. The one that was over 100, what was it, 1918 or before 1918?
It's either 1918 or 1908.
Yeah. So.
That's
I think what's just as telling, though, is that 61% were not religious or did not consider themselves religious. 21% were not very religious. Only 3% described their households as very religious, and 15% as somewhat religious. So, I don't know.
But, you know, you also kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. If you're super duper religious, you're going to say, hey, I got some weird ghosts and stuff going on.
True.
Probably not, even though the Bible's full of stuff like that.
Yep.
So, kind of crazy. All right, so anyway, getting ready, we're fixing to wrap up the podcast. There's one more link that's provided in the show notes that we're not really going to talk about. It's a random ghost hunting documentary.
Okay.
And you can click on it. It will take you to YouTube, of course, and it's called My Ghost Hunting Movie by a guy who went to it's the old Ram Inn, like in England. It's like the oldest inn.
Yeah, didn't Ghost Adventures go there?
Everybody that goes to Europe goes there.
There is electromagnetic energy in that pyramid.
So I was trying to get the name of it.
Yeah.
It's by Steve Higgins.
Okay.
And it says the potential of real paranormal activity awaits you with the genuine supernatural investigations in My Ghost Hunting Movie.
Yeah.
The real-life documentary sees personal writer and skeptic Steve Higgins embark on a unique solo investigation at the ancient Ram Inn. So he challenges conventional ghost hunting norms and blah, blah, blah. So I started watching part of it.
Yeah.
And said, it's not very long, but anyways, it's like an hour, you know. So I'm like, you know what? I'll watch this with Omi until we get uninterested. So I figured I'd put it in the show notes so that you can, if you're looking for a documentary to watch, you might be pretty interesting. Because the ancient Ram Inn I thought was pretty interesting because everybody goes there and everybody has some sort of experience.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird. Maybe not too weird, but anyway. There you go.
Okay.
Gonna wrap it up.
All right. Well, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Again, everything we talk about is in the show notes for each podcast episode. Be sure to check us out on social media. We have a fairly active Facebook group. That's CreepGeeks Facebook group, super easy to find. And then every major social media platform, just find CreepGeeks Pod or CreepGeeks, you'll find us. And that's about it.
Very nice. Okay. So, just in case you're wondering, we do have a license for this song. Let's see how long it takes to get hit with a copyright. Anyway, appreciate you taking the time to listen to us. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, let us know. See you later. Take it easy. Bye, Sickle.
Bye.